Hi, everybody. I'm Aron Solomon, and welcome to another Legal Briefs. We're very lucky to have with us today Roy Konray from Team Law. And Roy, we're going to talk about an issue that some people feel is somewhat esoteric, but it's actually more common than they believe. And that issue is glaucoma. So why don't we get started by talking about eye doctors? So Roy, what's the difference between an optician, an optometrist, and an ophthalmologist?
Okay, Aron. An optician is a person who designs and fits lenses into glasses based on prescriptions from optometrists and ophthalmologists. An optometrist is a doctor of optometry, but is not a medical doctor. To become an optometrist, one has to go to 3 years of college and then a 4-year optometry school. Optometrists typically will check eyes for prescriptions, prescribe lens, and do routine eye examinations. Ophthalmologists are medical doctors. They have to finish 4 years of college. They then have to go to 4 years of medical school. And after medical school, they then have to do 4 or 5 years of additional residency and training in ophthalmology.
Very interesting. I don't think a lot of people know the difference between all three of those. So for the issue itself, Roy, what is glaucoma?
Glaucoma is actually a group of eye conditions that gradually cause irreversible damage to the optic nerve. It's the leading cause of blindness, or certainly one of the leading causes of blindness. It's a slowly progressive disease. Typically, the damage is caused by having too much pressure inside the eye. It's called intraocular pressure.
Understood. And how generally is glaucoma diagnosed?
Okay, the three main ways to do it are: one is to measure the intraocular pressure. Another way it's often detected is with a visual field study, where they look and check whether a patient's peripheral vision is gradually starting to close in. Because it happens so gradually, people don't realize it. By the time people realize that their field of vision is narrowed, they already have advanced glaucoma in most cases. And the third way is that they dilate the pupils, shine a very bright light into the pupil, and then examine the head of the optic nerve under enlargement.
So, Roy, how did you become interested in the area of malpractice law relating to glaucoma?
Well, I have glaucoma. And actually, I was fortunate. It was diagnosed in an early stage. It was diagnosed during a visual field study where the doctor started to notice that there was some areas on my periphery that were starting to fade. My vision wasn't as acute in that area. Because I have glaucoma, I'm familiar with all of the tests, not just familiar with what their names are, but I've had them performed on me. For example, the visual field test is a test where your patient puts their chin in a holder, and it looks like you're almost looking inside a big white egg, and there's a series of little lights in there, and every time one of the lights twinkles on, you have to click the clicker, and that's to measure your visual field. Most of us have had that test where they blow a puff of air in your eye. That test it's a rough way of measuring intraocular pressure. There's another more accurate way called Goldman tonometry, where they put numbing drops in the eye, and then the patient sees a blue light coming toward the eye, and then they actually touch the eye, although you can't feel it when your eye is numb, to measure the pressure on the surface of the eye so they can tell what the intraocular pressure is. And then there's the other tests, certainly that I've had many times, is the dilated fundus exam. And that's a test where they dilate the pupils and shine a bright light into the eye and then examine under microscopic enlargement the head of the optic nerve. Now, in a normal patient, there's a depression or a little crater in the center of the optic nerve. Doctors say that it appears like a cup inside of a saucer, and the normal ratio it should be 0.3 or 30%. The cup should be 30% of the size of the saucer, so to speak. But with glaucoma, what often happens is the pressure causes the cup to get bigger and bigger until the ratio ends up at 0.9, or almost all of the eye has been pushed down into that little crater.
So, having gone through all of these tests and having glaucoma yourself, what advice would you give to a patient about maintaining the good health of their eyes?
Well, the first thing is that because glaucoma is a slow progressive disease, it occurs over many, many years. A couple things. One, early diagnosis really helps, because once it's diagnosed, drops can be prescribed or surgery can be performed to either slow down or arrest the progression of the glaucoma. So it's really important to have these yearly eye exams. Along those same lines, don't refuse any testing. Don't say, well, I don't like that puff of air in my eye. Or, a lot of patients, or some patients, will decline to have their eyes dilated because it can be annoying, and it can, once your eyes are dilated for the dilated fundus exam, your vision is going to be blurry for a number of hours after that exam. So if you're in a situation where you're going to have your best visual acuity in an hour after you leave the doctor's office, but the doctor wants to dilate your pupils, okay, turn it down, but don't leave the office without having scheduled that examination in the near future, so that you have to come back and have it done. Don't put it off for a year.
That makes perfect sense. I think that's also very good advice medically, generally. So, Roy, what do you look for in order to determine if there was malpractice in a glaucoma-related case?
Right. You would think with all these ways to detect glaucoma, that patients who have regular eye exams always have it diagnosed in an early stage. Sadly, that's not the case. What I've seen on some of the cases is the tests are just not performed. They're not checking the intraocular pressure. They're not doing the dilated fundus exam. They're not doing the visual field study test. And, even worse, I have cases where they did the pressure check or they did the visual field test. There were some abnormalities detected, but nothing was done about them. They were just sort of glossed over. And it's usually when a patient goes to a new doctor who then says, wait, you have, advanced glaucoma. So this, another thing I look at is, what were the patient's complaints? In a patient who doesn't have cataracts, if there's a complaint of cloudy or milky vision, that's usually a pathognomonic for glaucoma, meaning, or damage to the optic nerve.
Right.
And what that means is that it's almost invariable. If you have that complaint and you don't have cataracts, chances are high that they should be doing a very serious workup for glaucoma. So, while not every patient who is first diagnosed with advanced glaucoma has a malpractice case, if you have been diagnosed with advanced glaucoma and you were never diagnosed with glaucoma before, should contact us and we'll take a look at the record, get the medical records, and make sure that the appropriate testing was done, or that if it was done, that abnormal results were not ignored.
Roy, I think this is extremely helpful advice, and the deep dive that you did in the condition, I know people are going to get a lot out of that. I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Legal Briefs.
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Take care.